Hello and welcome to the online lecture series on the course of Object-Oriented Programming. In this video, we will cover the remaining topics of Chapter 6, Classes and Objects. In this video, we will start from Objects as a function arguments. In the last video, we have covered the topic of destructors. So I hope the concept of object is very clear in C++, as well as function and arguments is very clear. So I hope these three words really make sense to you till this point. Now with this example which I will just give you right now, I'll try to explain you the three more concepts in C++. The very first concept is of constructor overloading, and then we'll talk about defining member function outside the class, and then we'll talk about objects as a function argument. So we'll talk about these three concepts and we'll try to understand them with this example now, right? So when we say constructor overloading, that means a single constructor will have a different arguments, right? So a single constructor will be used for a different number of times and will have a different arguments here. Like we have talked about function overloading, that means a single function will be used for multiple number of times but will have a different arguments. Likewise, constructor is also a member function, and constructor overloading is only possible when a single constructor is being used multiple number of times, but every time it has a new arguments, and this concept is known as the constructor overloading. And the next concept is defining member function outside the class. That simply means the function declaration will be within the class, but function definition will be out of the class, and then that function will not be known as inline function, because inline function are those functions whose function definition is within the class. And then finally we'll talk about objects as a function argument, right? So what we have done so far is we have given the variables or maybe constant values as an argument to a function, but now we will see how we can give objects as a function arguments, right? So we'll try to understand these three different concepts in this example now. Let me explain to you this program to explain you these three concepts, and then I'll show you the same thing on the code blocks, right? Starting from the libraries here on the very top, and then we have a using namespace std here, and starting with the class here, and the name of the class is distance, and within the class we have a private segment and we have public segment. In private segment we have these two data elements here, one is the feet and other is inches, right? And then we in the public segment we have the constructors here. So the very first constructor is distance, which is the name of the class here, and this constructor does not have any kind of argument, so it's called default constructor, right? So a default constructor is kind of a constructor which does not have any kind of arguments, right? And what it does is basically initialize to the member elements or data members to a predefined value, right? So right here with this constructor, what we are trying to do is we are trying to initialize this feet and inches both to the value of 0 and 0, right? So 0 and inches is basically a float number, therefore we have mentioned 0.0 here, right? And this second constructor, which is the same name as of this class here, and it has multiple arguments here. So first argument is integer feet and second argument is float inches here, right? And these both will be initialized by certain values. So when you want to initialize any object or simply data members to a certain value, then we need to go with this kind of constructor here, right? I'll show you in the main program body, then I'll explain to you a little more. And then we have this function get distance. What this function will do, it will take the values of feet and inches for these data members here using an object, right? So we'll call this function, and so to call a function again we'll need an object. So we'll create an object first and then we'll call this function, and then we'll take the values from the users here. And then we have this function here in our class, and this function basically displays the values on the output side. So feet, and then we have escape sequence and then hyphen, and then again escape sequence and double quotation mark. And finally we have this function here. This function is basically the name of this function is age distance, and it will return us a value of void. That means it will not return us any value. It has two arguments, distance and distance here. And one thing is different from in this function from others is that all of these function has their function definition. So if you see this function has this function definition, this function has this function definition, but this function only has a declaration. The function definition of this function is present out of the class, right? So if you see right here, this function is age distance right here, and it has these two arguments, distance and distance here, and these are the variables. D2 and D3 are the variables, and distance both are the name of the class here. Therefore they will be used like a user defined data type here, and this function will return as a value which will be wide in nature. Now this distance basically shows the name of the class, right? So this distance here is the name of the class, and this indicates that this function basically belongs to this class here. Therefore step 1 is we need to mention the nature of the output of the function, and then we'll mention the class which it belongs, and then we need to give this operator here. Now this operator is called the scope resolution operator. So this double colon symbol right here is basically known as the scope resolution operator. Now what it does, basically it fetches this function in our from our class, right, and then we give the argument to it. So this kind of syntax is only used when the function definition for any function is available out of the class. So for these functions, if you see, the function definition is within the class, but for this function the function definition is available out of the class, and for this reason we need to go with this kind of syntax, right? And this operator is known as the scope resolution operator, right? So we need to give the name of the class, and then we need to give the name of the function. So this says that this function basically belongs to this class here, right? And then within this body here we have the function definition of this specific function, which is age distance, right? And I'll explain to you in details a little more after explaining you the main program body here. In the main program body, what we have this class, and it has two objects, distance 1 and distance 3. Now these both will be initialized. So at the moment we have defined them, and once we define them we need to initialize them. So to initialize these kind of objects, we need to have this constructor here, no argument constructor. Okay? So the no argument constructor is specifically used for these kind of objects here, which are not initialized to any value. Now this is also an object which is distance 2 here of this class distance, but is initialized to a predefined value 11, 6.25. So for this kind of initialization, we basically need this kind of constructor here. So this feet and this inches, so inches belong to a float in nature, feet are basically integer in nature. So this is basically a multiple argument constructor, right? So we basically give multiple arguments to this object here, and then automatically it will initialize those respective variables. So 11 is the feet and 6.25 the inches here. Then we have called this function, which is the get distance. What this function will do, it will basically takes the value from the user, right? So this function, which is get distance, basically takes values from the user and it stores them in the respective data members here, right? And to call this function, again we need an object. So therefore we have this object right here, which is distance 1. So distance 1, which was initially initialized to the value of 0 and 0, both feet and inches, by the help of no argument constructor. Now with this function, what we do, we'll initialize them to a specified values which we'll take from the user. And finally we want to add them, and for this reason we have called this function, right? So add distance is a function, which is this one right here, right? And it has two arguments here, distance and distance. These are the two arguments here, right? So we'll take these two arguments from the user, we assign them. So distance 1, which we have taken from the user, and distance 2, which we have initialized by ourselves. Now these two both are the arguments to this function here, and once this function will add these two values, then it will return us one more value which will be stored in this object here, right? Now this simply means we can give argument to a function which will be objects here, right? So in earlier chapters we have seen that we can give a function argument as in a constant values, or we can give function argument as variables, but we can also give objects as a function arguments, right? So right here these two are the objects, distance 1 and distance 2. These both are the objects here, which you can see here. They belong to this class distance, and this distance 1 was initially initialized by the no argument constructor, and then it is given the value when we take from the user, and finally we are trying to add them together. Therefore we have given these two objects as an argument to this function, and finally we this function will add them together, and the result will be stored in distance 3 here, right? And what this function will do, show distance, and show distance, it will basically display the value of each of these objects here. So again, to display them, we need to call the function. So distance 1 and then dot operator and then show distance. Distance 2 dot operator and then show distance. And distance 3 again dot operator and show distance. And finally return 0 for this main function here, right? So the first concept that we had to understand using this example is constructor overloading. So as I mentioned to you, that when a single constructor is being used multiple number of times, but every time it has a different arguments, then that constructor is known as the constructor overloading, right? So this constructor is specifically being used to initialize these objects here, distance 1 and distance 3, right? So whenever these objects are being created, they will automatically be initialized to the value of 0 and 0. Because right here we have given the value for feet, we have given the value of 0, and inches we have given the value of 0.08, right? And when we want to initialize our own object, our own created object, then we need to have a constructor, and that constructor is known as the multiple argument constructor. So this constructor has two arguments, and one argument is for the feet and other argument is for the inches. So whatever value will initialize for that object will automatically be given to these variables, and then these variables will be placed in the parentheses, because ultimately they will assign the value to these feet and inches here. Now this constructor is known as the default constructor. So default constructors are basically available within the compiler, right? So if you do not place the default constructor, they will automatically be initializing our created objects to a certain value. But if you want to initialize the created objects to the value of 0 or to a predefined value, then we need to use the default constructors here. Right? So this constructor with no argument is known as the default constructor. And this constructor is basically a multiple argument constructor, so we need to assign the values to it, and then these values will be assigned to our data members here. Keep one thing in mind, that constructors are basically the member functions. So when the constructors are function, then technically they will take arguments, right? So default argument constructor will never take any kind of argument, right? Or simply say no argument constructor. A no argument constructor or default constructor will not take any kind of arguments. And multiple argument constructor will depend upon how many data members we have. So the argument of a multiple argument constructor based on how many data members we have. Suppose we have 3 data members here, then we need to have 3 arguments here. If we have 4 data members, then we need to have 4 arguments here. But constructor overloading simply means that a single constructor is being used multiple number of times, and every single time it has different arguments. Like in function overloading, we have seen that every single function is being called multiple number of times, but it is being identified or differentiated from other functions based on how many argument it has, right? Likewise, these both are the constructor here, but we can differentiate them based on how many arguments they have. If there are no arguments, then it is called no argument constructor, or simply we can say default constructor. And if that constructor contains the argument, then it is known as the multiple argument constructor, or based on how many arguments we have. So we can call this constructor as a 2 argument constructor. The second concept was that the function declaration is available within the class, but the function definition is available out of the class. It is also very possible. So sometimes if the function definition is quite large and you want to keep them out of the class, then it's also okay. But you need to define, you need to declare a member function within the class. If the member function declaration is not in the class, then that will be not known as the member function, right? So the member function declaration has to be in the class, but its definition can be available out of the class. So right here we have only declared this function here, and when we declare the function, we need to give 3 things. One, the nature of the output. So the output of this function will be void in nature, and then age distance is the name of the function, and the third thing that we have to provide or supply is the argument to that function. So whenever you use the function, you have to give the arguments. So right here we have these 2 arguments here, and these 2 arguments in the function definition should be assigned to variables. So if you see in the function definition, we have assigned the variables to these data types here. So these both are data types, and then we have assigned the variables here. Now this is the name of the function, and this is known as the scope resolution operator. So what this scope resolution operator does, it basically fetches, it basically connects this age distance with this class here, and this class name. So we need to give the nature output nature of the function, which is void. Then we'll give the name of the class, and then we'll give the name of the function. That simply means this function basically belongs to this class here, and then we'll give the argument to it. In the function definition, I think this definition I have already explained to you in earlier examples of chapter 4, maybe of distance. Then it basically adds the inches together and then converts them into the feet, and then feet will be incremented, and finally we find the 8 feet. So this definition of this function would be very clear to you, so you can understand by yourself, right? And the next concept was that, like, we can give constant values to a function, we can give variables to a function, or we can give argument by the means of a reference, and we can also give objects to a function. That's also very possible. So you can think of objects as like in a variable, and hence we can give them as an argument to a function. However, those objects need to be of the same class as the function, right? So this function distance is also of this class, and these objects are also of this class, and therefore we can give these objects as an argument to a function. So these two objects are initialized to the value of 0 and 0.0 by the help of no argument constructor, or simply we can say default constructor. And this object is being initialized by the help of two argument constructor to the value of 11 and 6.25, and then we have given distance 1 and distance 2. Both these distance are given as an argument to this function here, and then what this function will do, it will basically add these two values together and will store the output in this distance here. It is only doing because this function has an access of this object here. So object can access the functions, and functions can access the objects as well, because they belong to the same class, right? And this function is specifically used to get the value for this object here, right? So to get the value for this object, we need to call the function, or we can assign them directly by using the two argument constructor here. Okay? So I hope these three concepts are very clear to you. Now I will show you this program on the code blocks, and then we'll move to the next topic. Now I have this program here which I have just explained to you, and I will run this code, and we'll go step by step, right? And enter feet right here on the console is only because of this step right here, right? So for this object distance 1, we have called the function get distance, right? And this function will basically is this function definition, right? So enter feet is the first statement, so whatever value will be taking will be stored in the value of feet here, right? So let's say suppose we enter 15, so it will be stored in 15 here. Then the second statement is enter inches, so let's say 8 inches, right? So the 8 will be stored in this inches here, right? For this specific object, which is distance 1, because distance 1 has called this get distance here, and get distance will be provoked, or simply I can say invoked here. I will not say provoked, invoked here, and these two values will be taken and will be stored in these data members here for only this object here, distance 1. And distance 2 is initialized to the value of 11, 6.25, so this distance is equal to this thing. And then distance 3 is basically the summation of these two values. So we can give the objects as an argument to a function if they belong to that specific class as same of the member function. So because this member function belongs to this class, which is this one at the top here, therefore we can give these objects as an argument to this function, and the resultant of this function will be stored in this object here. Again, only because this function has an access of this object, and hence we can store the value for the feet in inches, which we have taken, which we have the outcome is 27 feet and 2.25 inches here, right? And this function definition, which is of the 8 distance, can be placed outside the class, but their function declaration must be within the class to make it count that it belongs to this class and it is a member function, right? And within this function definition, I think this is very clear to you that it is adding 2 inches and then converting them into feet, and finally converting back remaining inches so that we can display them, right? So I hope these three concepts are very clear. Very first concept, that constructor can be overloaded. Second concept, that we can keep the function definition out of the main class. And then third is we can give objects as an argument to a function, like we have given variables and constant numbers an argument to a function, right? Now let me summarize this thing. When we create an object like this way, then we need a no argument constructor, or simply we need a default constructor to initialize data members for that specific object, right? So when we create an object like this way, then the data members will be initialized to the value of 0 and 0.0 by the help of the default constructor here, right? And when we assign the value to data members for this specific object, then they will be initialized by the help of a two argument constructor, right? So we need a two argument constructor, depending upon how many data members we have. Accordingly, we need that much argument in the constructor for these kind of objects here, right? And this constructor will be known as the overloaded constructor, because it is the name of the constructor is same, however the arguments are different, and then that constructor is known as the overloaded constructor. And then I have explained to you the member function defined the outside the class, but I need to explain you the syntax here, right? So this is the syntax when we define the member function outside the class, right? So the function declaration must be within the class, as I explained to you earlier, and the function definition we can keep out of the class, but we need to use the scope resolution operator. The syntax is that first we need the return type, that what kind of outcome the function will return, and this function which we have used in our program is aDistance, will not return us any kind of value. However, there is some mathematics happening, it should return us a value, but it is not returning, so therefore we have mentioned void here, and I'll explain to you the reason of this thing in a short while. And then we need to give the name of the class, right? And we need to give the name of the class because in the next step we have the function name here, right? So this basically says that this member function actually belongs to this class, and to identify this thing that this belongs to this class, actually we have this scope resolution operator here, right? So this scope resolution operator basically connects this member function to this class, and hence this class will check that for this function there is a function declaration available, and then all we need to do is give the arguments to the function, and then for every single data type we also need to give the variable. So distance is basically name of the class, and hence it will act like a user defined data type, and D2 and D3 are basically the variables for these data types here, right? So the syntax should be very clear when the function definition is placed out of the class. Now let me explain to you the reason that why this function is not returning us any kind of value. However, if you closely see that there is some kind of mathematics happening, it should return us a value, but it is not returning, and hence the value void is mentioned here. So let's go back to the program here, and on the top right here, this function basically stores the value in this object here, right? And hence this function is not returning us any kind of value. So when the functions are storing the values into the object, right? So when this function will perform its task and when it will return us a value, then that value will automatically be stored in this object here, distance 3, and this is why it is not returning, this function aDistance is not returning us any kind of value. Therefore the void is mentioned for this function here. The last thing, as I explained to you, that we can give arguments to a function as an objects, right? It's very possible, and so we can give constant values, we can give variables, we can also give objects as an argument to a function if that member function and the arguments both belong to the same class. So in the example that I've explained to you right now, in that distance 1 and distance 2 basically belong to the same class as of this member function here. Hence this member function can access these data here, and the outcome of this function is stored in this object here, because this member function is also having the access of this object here. So automatically when the summation of these two distances is being performed, then the result will be stored in the third distance here, because all these objects belong to the same class as of this member function here. So this syntax is very true until unless these objects and these member functions do not belong to the same class, right? Then you will get the error, because the function will not have the access of data, and therefore they will not be able to perform the function. right? So the data is hidden data, the data is encapsulated. That means only the member functions can access the data, and data is basically is accessed by the help of objects. So object call the functions access data, and hence this syntax is only valid when the objects and the member functions belong to the same class. So it will be working very fine. Now what this diagram basically illustrates is illustrating this function here, this function call here. This function call is very ambiguous to many people because they think that these objects cannot be given as an argument to a function, right? Which is not valid until and unless they are not of the same class. Now the distance 1 is basically initialized to the value of 0 and 0.0 by the help of no argument constructor, and then we call the function getDistance to get the value for this object here. So distance 1 is actually we have taken from the user by the help of getDistance function in our main program. And distance 2 we have initialized by the help of two argument constructor to a specified value here, and these both objects are given as an argument to this function, and the resultant is basically stored in distance 3 because this function actually has the access of this object here, and hence the value for feet and inches are stored to the respective data members here. Right? This is what this illustration is explaining. The next concept is the default copy constructor, right? So the default copy constructor is a kind of constructor, is also a member function, right? But it takes only one argument, right? So as I explained to you, the default constructor, which is basically a no argument constructor, does not take any kind of argument, and it initializes to the data members to the predefined value, or maybe to the value of 0 and 0.00 depending upon what kind of data members we have and what kind of their type we have, right? And then we have a multiple argument constructor based on how many data members we have, right? And the last kind of constructor we have is called the default copy constructor, right? And the default copy constructor is not necessary to be mentioned in the class, right? And the objective of the default copy constructor is to initialize an object with another object if they both belong to the same class, right? So the idea is very simple, and the idea is if we want to initialize one object with another object of the same class, then all we need to do is we need a default copy constructor, and the default copy constructor is not necessarily and explicitly to be explained or to be defined in the class. Now let me explain this thing by the help of program here, then I'll show the same on code blocks. On the very top we have the libraries here, then we have using namespace std, and in the next page we have this class here, and this class contains, and then the name of the class is distance. Again the same program but being done with a different format, right? So the same example we have done so many times. And in the private segment we have these two data elements here. In public we have initially we have the constructors to initialize our objects, and then we have this function here which will take the value from the user for a specific object, whosoever will call it, and then this function will basically display the value on the output side. There is no any mathematics happening, so there is no third function here. Now coming to the main program here, so we have this class name which will be acting like a user defined data type, and then we have a distance 1 which is the object we have created, and then we have initialized to the value of 11, 6.25. So when you initialize any object by this format, by directly giving the values to data members, then what we need a multiple argument constructor here. So this constructor is specifically used for this object initialization. And then there is default copy constructor. Now what basically it is doing, it is initializing distance 2 to the value of distance 1. So distance 1 is equivalent to 11 feet and 6.25 inches. And now what we are doing is we are basically allocating the value of distance 1 to the value of distance 2 here. Now for this kind of initialization, we basically need one argument constructor, and that one argument constructor is known as the default copy constructor, right? So this one argument is the argument of the object of the same class by which we want to initialize our new created object. So our new created object is distance 2, and we want to initialize with the same value of distance 1. Therefore we have placed in the format of function here like the same way here, and then we have given the value of distance 1 here. And another way to initialize the object by another object is we can put equals to sign here. So distance 3, which is again a new object for this class here, and it is initialized to the value of distance 1. That means distance 3 and distance 1 are both equal, right? So distance 1 we have allocated by the above two argument constructor, so the values are 11 and 6.25. Distance 2 is initialized by the above distance 1, and for this reason we need one argument constructor, and that one argument will be the object of the same class by which we want to initialize our NuCreate object. And then distance 3 is our again a new object of this class distance, and it is being made equal to distance 1. Right? So these two need a one argument constructor because they are basically initialized to our own object which belong to the same class, and it is being earlier initialized. Right? So I hope the concept of one argument constructor is clear. And one argument constructor is not supposed to be defined here because it is by default is a default argument constructor, but it is called default copy constructor only because we are copying the value of one object and we are assigning to the new created object, and therefore it's called the default copy constructor. Okay. Now I'll show you the same thing on the code blocks here to verify this thing with how exactly it works. Now this is the same program which I have just explained to you right now. Let me run this program first here. And if you see, all these distances have the same value, all these objects has the same value, 11 feet and 6.25 inches, because the first object is being initialized by the help of two argument constructor, and then all other objects are being initialized with the value of distance 1 by the help of no argument constructor, right? So distance 1, distance 2, distance 3, they all are equal, and because they have the same value of 11 feet and 6.25 inches. And this function is called to display the value in this format. So show distance, if you see in the class here, this member function has one purpose only, and the purpose is to display the value of these data members by this format here. So initially 11 feet, so 11 will come, and then this escape sequence will generate the single quotation mark, and then we have hyphen symbol, and then we have 6.25, which is the value for the inches, which is assigned to this variable here, and then we have again escape sequence but double quotation mark, so double quotation mark is here, right? So I hope the concept of default copy constructor is also very clear. Now the next topic is returning objects from a functions, right? Now in the earlier program we have given objects as an argument to a function, right? So we are very clear by this point that we can give objects as an argument to a function. Now the question arises, can we get return value as an object from a function? Is it possible? And the answer is yes. The functions can also return us an objects, right? Or simply that we can store the values written by the function in the objects if the objects and the function belong to the same class, right? Now let me make you understand this concept by this example here, and this example is very similar to the example that I have covered earlier. Now I do not think I need to explain you because it contains almost the same thing. The class name is distance, these two data members here, and then in public we have the member functions, and initially it contains the constructors. One constructor is default constructor, and then we have a two argument constructor, and then this function takes the value from the user, this displays the value on the output side, and then this function will perform the addition. Its declaration is only mentioned, and the function definition is outside the class. And in main program body we have created two objects here, and these two objects will be initialized to the value of 0 and 0.00 by the help of a default constructor, a no argument constructor, and this distance 2 is basically initialized to the value of 11 and 6.25 by the help of two argument constructor. Then to initialize the value to this object here, we have called the function. So this function will take the value from the user by using this statement here, right, and it will store the value into the feet and inches to the respective data members. And the interesting thing basically happening is right here, right? So this is what is different from the last program which I've explained to you. Now if you see right here, this syntax will be slightly confusing, but it is not that confusing, right? Let me explain to you this thing. So we have age distance here. So to call this function, again we need an object, right? So in classes and objects, whenever we want to call a member function, we need to have an object, right? So basically we have used this distance 1, which is right here, which is created and then initialized to the value of 0 and 0.0. Then we have called the function getDistance to get the value for this object. Now basically this object has the value, right, which we have taken from the user, and then this object is basically calling this function, right? And then this function, for sure we need to assign some argument to this function, right? So based on the function definition, if you see right here, this function definition is also slightly changed from the function definition of the last program, because if you see in the last program, the function definition contains two arguments, distance and distance, but in this example only one distance is an argument to this function here, right? It is only because that this object which is calling this function and the argument which we have given to this function are basically adding together right here, right? So we can call a function by the help of an object which is being already assigned a value, and we can also give an argument to a function as an object, and basically this gives us little bit more realistic sense of this thing here. So this distance 3, which is the object here, right, which is initialized to the value of 0.0 and 0 by the no argument constructor, and is equals to this distance 1, which is this thing here, and then this thing here, dot age distance 2 here, right? It simply means these two distances are getting added together, right? So if you see right here, this distance 1 and plus, that means this function will perform the addition of this object with this object here. So basically it is giving us a little bit more realistic sense is of basic mathematics, like distance 3 is equal to distance 1 plus distance 2. Okay. So in the last program that we have seen, that function definition, the function call was a little bit unrealistic, but this seems a little bit more realistic, right? So we can call the functions in this method as well, right? So this is the idea behind this whole program. I mean, the rest of things are very similar as of the little program, and the value that is being returned by this function after performing its job is stored in distance 3 here, right? So distance 3 is an object which is basically holding the value which is being returned by the function named addDistance. And what addDistance is doing is basically adding two objects together. An object which is calling to the function, an object which is being assigned as an argument to that function, right? So in the function definition, if you see, this function definition only has one argument, so therefore we have to provide only one argument in the main program here. So whenever you call the function, you need to give the argument, but depends upon how many arguments are in the function definition. So in the function definition, if there's one argument, it simply means we can only assign one argument to that function, right? So technically means these two objects are getting added, and then the result is being stored in this object here. So the topic was, can we return the objects from the function? The answer is yes, we can return the objects from a function, and we can also give objects as an argument to a function, right? That was the idea behind this thing. Now I don't think I need to run this program because I think this is very similar to the earlier examples which I have explained to you. Though if you have any question, you can ask me afterwards. We'll move to the next topic now. This card game example I have already covered in, I guess, in chapter 3 when we are swiping two cards, maybe three cards, and we'll try to find out the card which was required, right? So this example basically explains all the concepts that we have studied so far in our programming language of C++, right? So I strongly recommend that you should study this program by yourself and give a good amount of time, because it will actually be helping you in exploring the concept which we have covered in earlier chapters, right? So from the very top, go through this entire program. It basically contains the libraries, it also contains the classes here, and then it contains the function definition out of the class, and then it contains the if and else statement plus which statements, and then there is some conditional thing are happening, and then finally in the main program body
we are swiping the cards and then the positions, and finally we are returning the values and giving the price, right? So I'm leaving this example for you uh, so that you may understand by yourself and try to recall all those concepts that we have covered. So
The next concept is the difference between structures and classes, right?
so apparently, if you see the definition of a class and if you see the definition of a structure, they are very much similar, right? So the way we define the structure and the way we define the class is almost very similar. But what we have seen so far is that classes basically contains data and functions both, right? And data are called the member data and the functions are called the member functions. And in structures, what we have seen is we have only used structures for holding the data members, right? So we have not used structures for the purpose of holding the functions, right? But it's not very true. The structures and classes both are used for the same purposes. Like in structures, we can also keep data and we can also keep functions, and in classes we can also keep data and we can also keep the functions, right? But specifically in C programming language or in C++, we generally use structures for holding data and we use classes for data and functions both. That's how we use them, right? And one more difference that I need to make here, the concept here, and the concept is that in classes, either data members or the member functions are basically the private, right? The basic difference between class and structure I'm trying to explain to you is that in class, data members and functions both are fundamentally private. However, intentionally we make functions public and data private, right? That's the idea here. So keep this thing in mind that classes can have data and functions. Likewise, structure can also have data and functions both. However, we use structures specifically for holding data elements and we use classes for holding data and functions both, right? But keep one thing in mind that classes are totally private. However, we intentionally make functions or member functions in classes as public and data as private, and that concept is known as data encapsulation. That means data is hidden and so that it can only be accessed by the member function. Now because data is private by default and class is also private by default, therefore there is no need to mention the keyword private here. So if you see this class and this class is almost very similar, and the only difference is that this data is private and classes are by default private, therefore there is no need to mention private keyword here. However, if you mention private keyword, it will make much more sense. But those who have really understood the concept of classes, they basically do not mention the keyword private because they know the classes are private and hence our data is also private, right? And however, we mention public keyword for the functions because by default everything in the class is private, and explicitly we want to use function as a public, therefore we need to mention keyword public here. And its opposite is true for the structures, right? So if you come in the structures here, the structures are totally public. However, we want to make our data private, therefore we need to mention private keyword here for the data here, and the functions are public, therefore there is no need to mention the public keyword here, right? So I hope the concept of structures and classes and the difference between them two is clear now.
The next concept in this series is classes, objects, and their association with memory here, right? Now, I hope these keywords are very clear. The classes are clear to you. The objects are also very clear to you. And the memory assigned to the objects by the help of constructor when they are being initialized is also very clear. But what we have understood so far, or what we have been thinking so far, is that a single object has its own functions and has its own data elements, right? Now let's suppose if in a program there are two objects, and both the objects has its own data element and has its own member functions, right? That's what we have been thinking so far. Let me give you an example. Now let's suppose in this program here we have created two objects of this class here. So S1 and S2 both are the objects of this class. The name of the class is small objects. Now you might think that this object we have created has
its own data elements and plus has its own functions. And this object that we have created has also its own data elements and also has its own function. But this is actually not true. I mean, if you are thinking in this way, then this is not true here. What exactly is true is this thing here, right? So object 1, object 2 and object 3, maybe there can be any number of objects. All of these objects has different data elements, right? However, they have the same member functions, because the member functions are the way to access data elements. So you basically assign the different values to data members to their respective object. However, their member functions will remain same. Now suppose that if we have three objects in our program, object 1, object 2 and object 3, and let's suppose that object 1 has a name of A, object 2 has a name of B, and object 3 has a name of C. A, B and C are the three objects which belong to let's say the class name alphabet. So alphabet is the name of class and there are three objects A, B and C. All of these objects can have different values because the data members are basically holding different values. However, their member functions will be same, right? Therefore, these all objects here A, B and C are 1, 2 and 3. All of these objects, if you see, has the same member functions, right? However, they are basically holding the different data here, right? So you need to be very clear that the objects that we create here, every single object can have different values assigned to the data members, but their functions are same. So these functions are public and they are all for these objects here. But the data member can have different values based on how much we assign to them, right? In short, what we can say is that every single object will have different values for the data members. However, every single object in the program will have the same member functions, right? That's what we can say in summary. Now let's talk about static class data. So we have seen that every single object in a program will have a different values of its data member. However, they have the same member functions. Now the question is, can we have the same values of data members of all the objects that we have created? And the answer is yes. All the objects can have the same value of their data members only if the data members are static, right? So if the data members are the variables and data members are static, then the value assigned to them will be the same for all the objects that we have created, right? Now let me give you an example here, then I'll explain this thing in little more detail. Now this program basically explains the concept of static class data. That means whenever the data members are static, they have the same values for all the objects that we have created, right? So on the top we have a library here, then we have the using namespace std, and then we have a class. So the definition of class, as I mentioned to you, should be before the main program we have. So this class is a name of foo here, right? And then it starts from this curly bracket. And in this class we have private segment and public segment. And private we have data elements here. This is only one data element, and the data element or the variable here is count, right? So this variable count or data member count has the nature of integer here. But with the integer we have mentioned one more keyword here, that is static here, right? So when the variables are of static in nature, so we have learned in chapter 5, right? So let me go back to this page here, which explains the concept of static in nature, right? So the variables can have the scope and storage class, right? So when the variables have a local scope, that means they can only be visible within that block here, and the variables have file scope, that means they can be seen throughout a file. And if their storage class is automatic, that means they will be created automatically and then they will be destroyed. And if the variables has the storage class is static, that means they will remain throughout the program, right? Now the program that I'm explaining to you right now, if you see right here, this variable will have the storage class of static and its scope will be a local scope, right? And the scope will be local because this variable can only be seen within this class here. It cannot be seen out of the class, and hence we need these functions to modify or to update the value for this variable here. So its scope will be a local scope, and its storage class will be static, because whenever it is created or whenever it is initialized, it will remain throughout the program. So whenever the program is run for the first time, automatically its space will be allocated in the memory, and it will remain throughout the program. So its storage class will be static, and its scope class would be the local scope. Now keep one thing in mind, that whenever data members are basically the static in nature, that simply means whatever the value is, it is same for all the objects here, right? So it's also very possible, like the functions, that the data members can be also very similar for all these objects here, right? So we need to mention the keyword static here to make the value same for all the objects here, right? So that's what the static purpose is, right? Then in the public segment, we have the two functions here. One function is foo, which basically increments the value of count, and then other function is get character, get count here. What does get count does? It basically returns the value of the count here. So maybe count is 0, maybe 1, or maybe 2. Hence it is integer, therefore it will return the value of integer in nature. Now if you see right here, it's not the function definition out of the class, but it is basically what we are doing is we are initializing the value of count to the 0 here. So it's also very possible that we can initialize or we can assign the value of data members out of the main class. Like we can define the function out of the main class. It's also very possible that we can define the data members out of the class as well. So we need to follow the same procedure, right? So this is the definition of count here. So what we need to do is we need to mention the data type first, so it's integer. Then we need to mention the name of the class, which is the foo here, and then we need to put the scope resolution operator, because this count belongs to this class here, therefore we need to put count, and then it is equal to 0 here, right? So the value of count is initially 0. Then in the main program, if you see, we have created 3 objects, f1, f2 and f3, that simply mean all of these objects has a value of 0 here. Now we are not calling this function count plus plus, right? I mean, we are not calling this function foo here to increase the value of count. All we are doing is we are calling this function as get count, and this get count will return us the value of count here, which is basically 0 here. So f1, f2 and f3 basically has the same data member, which is count here, and it is static in nature, therefore the value of these all 3 objects will be same, right? And because we are not calling this count plus plus here, that technically means there will be no any increment, and hence this function should return us the value of 0, 0 and 0 on the output side. However, it will not return us the value of 0, 0 and 0, but it will return us the value of 3, 3 and 3 on the output side. And I will leave this to you, that you need to find out why this function is not returning us the value of 0. However, it is returning us a value of 3, right? So this is the question, and you need to find out the reason behind this thing, right? So I will show you the same thing on the code blocks here, and it will show you the value of 3 on the output side. It will not show the value of 0, despite the function count plus plus is not being called. I mean, this foo is not being called to increment this thing, right? Now let me show you this thing on the code blocks here, right? And if you see on the output side the value of 3, 3 and 3 here, however it is being initialized to the value of 0, and there is no any function, there is no any call to this function which basically counts this thing. So the count is not is being incremented. However, you get the value of 3, 3 and 3 on the output side, and you need to determine the reason behind this thing. Though I know the reason, but I mean, you need to slightly think on this thing, that what exactly is happening and what is the reason of getting 3 on the output side, right? So I'll see that who among you basically cracks this thing. In the last image, we have seen that all the objects has different values of data members, however they have the same functions. But in this image, we can see that whenever we have a static data, or that means whenever we have a data members as of static in nature, that simply means all of the objects will have the same value of their data members. So this example I have just explained to you, and this image illustrates the same concept here. So object 1, object 2 and object 3, all of these objects will have the same value, because their data members is basically static in nature, right? So if you see, this circle is indicating that all of these objects are basically sharing the same variable, and the value assigned to the variable is also very same for all the objects, because that variable is basically static in nature. Now the next concept is separate declaration and definition for static data members, right? Now to understand you this thing, let me go back to the program here. So if you see right here, whenever we have data members of static in nature, their definition and declaration basically needs two steps. So when I say definition, that simply means we assign value to that variable, and when I say declaration, that simply means you basically tell the compiler what is the name of the variable and what is the nature of the variable. To make you understand slightly more, let's suppose if I say integer integer a equals to 4, right? Now this is basically an ordinary variable, right? So integer a is basically the declaration, right? Declaration simply means we are telling the compiler that the variable name is a and its type is integer. So this is what declaration is. And when I say definition, that means we are assigning value to that variable here. So the value of variable is 4 here. Now this is the definition portion. That means the space is being assigned in the memory location, right? Likewise, when you talk about the static data members, they basically requires two steps. So first we need to declare them in our class, and the definition basically happens out of the class here. Like ordinary variable, their definition and declaration both happens in the one line. The static data members has two steps. One step we need to declare them. So when we declare them, we need to take three things into account. First thing, the name of the variable, their nature of the variable, and then we need to put static here, right? When the variables are static in nature, our data members are static in nature, then their definition will happen out of the class here. So if you see right here in this program, the definition, that means we are assigning value to this variable, is happening out of the class. And the reason of defining the data members which are of static in nature out of the class is very simple. And the reason is that the memory space is allocated only once, because all of these objects are basically having the same value for this variable. Therefore the memory is assigned only once, and hence we need to keep the definition of the static data member out of the main class here. So we need to use the scope resolution operator to show that this member, data member, basically belongs to this class, and it is defined out of this class only because this variable is of static in nature, and this value, whatever the value it is holding, it is the same for all of these objects. Therefore the memory location is only assigned only once for this variable here, right? So this is the idea behind keeping the static data member and the definition out of the class. So declaration has happened within the class, but the definition will happen out of the. Now the next concept is constant and classes here. So this constant keyword we have been using with the variables, I mean with the ordinary variables. So whenever you use constant keyword, that simply means we cannot update or we cannot change the value of that variable, right? And we have also used the constant keyword in the argument in the functions in the last chapter. That means the argument of that function will remain same, they cannot be changed, they cannot be updated, right? So now what we will do, we will basically see that how we can apply this concept of constant in the classes now, right? So that's what we have to understand. The very first thing that we can make constant in our classes is we can make constant our member functions. So whenever the member functions are made constant, that simply means they cannot update the data members, they cannot update the values of data members no matter whenever they are called. Now suppose in this example we have the class here, and the name of the class is a class here, and within this class we have a private segment and public segment, and in private segment we have one variable whose name is alpha, and this alpha is of integer in nature. Now in public segment we have the two function, and both function return us the value of void here, and the first function has the name of non-function here, and its function definition has the value of alpha equal to 99, right? And the second function is constant function, CUN is constant and FUNC is function, constant function. And we have mentioned the keyword constant here. This keyword constant basically indicates that this member function is constant here. Therefore, this cannot update the value of our data member. So whenever member functions are made constant, that simply means a member function cannot update the value of data members here. So we have to give the keyword CUNST constant here after writing the function declaration. So we need to we need to mention this constant keyword in the function declaration, right? That simply means that data members cannot be updated. Whatever the value were, it will remain same. This function cannot update the value of data members. So you get the error cannot modify the member here. To make you understand the concept of member functions being constant, I have an example here which I have explained to you the bunch of times. Therefore, I will not be going in much detail. I will go to the specific segment which is explaining the concept, and then we'll go to the next concept, right? Now, if you see right here, in class we have private segment and public segment. In public segment we have the constructors here, which basically initializes these variables to this value of 0 and 0, and this is no argument constructor, or simply say default constructor, and this is two argument constructor that simply takes the value which is being assigned by the user and initialize these variables to the respective value. Coming to this function here, which is getDistance, this function whenever called by the object basically takes value from the user and assign to them. And this function, if you see showDistance, is basically displaying the value on the output side, and it does no other job. And therefore this function is made constant here. Now because this function should not and must not modify the values of data members, and it has nothing to do with the values of data members, hence this function is made constant, right? So those functions which has nothing to do with data and the function is supposed to display the value, so we can just put constant here as a keyword. That simply means this constant, this function, this member function is now constant. It cannot update or it cannot change the values of data members. Now we have one more function here, and its only declaration is mentioned in class and its definition is available out of the class. But if you see right here, this function is basically perform the addition of two numbers. That simply means this function has no authority to change the values of data members. Whatever data member value is, this function will only add them together. Therefore we have mentioned the constant keyword here. So you can keep or you can write the constant keyword for those functions which has no authority or which should not change the values of data members. So it is very beneficial to write the word keyword after writing the function declaration. So you need to write the function declaration as it is, and thus then just mention the constant keyword. That's all you have to do. Now the reason of mentioning this constant keyword for those functions which has nothing to do with this data is only because this member function has the access of these data members, right? So eventually we write the objects and then we call the function, and function basically update the values of data members. But if in class there are functions which has nothing to do with data and their function is to display or to add or do some kind of operation, that simply means we do not want to modify or alter the data, and hence it's better to put the keyword constant there. Right? So this will be much more beneficial when you're writing the classes and you're writing the member functions. In the chapter of functions, we have seen that we can make function arguments as constant, right? So when we pass the argument by the means of reference, and if we do not want to change or update the values of our argument, then we just mention the constant keyword in our argument there. And this concept is also truly applicable on member functions as well, because member functions are eventually fundamentally are the functions, right? So the same concepts of functions that we have studied in chapter 5 are basically applied on the concepts of functions when you place the function in the classes, right? So the idea is that we can use the keyword constant for the arguments of the functions as well, for the member functions as well. The last thing that we can make constant in our classes and objects is the object itself. It is also very possible, and it is also sometimes very necessary to make our objects very confined and very constant, so that they should not get altered or modified. So all we need to do is we need to write the constant keyword before our objects when they are created, right? So this program, I will not go into the class here, because this class is very obvious to you and there is no any changes happening. It will go directly to the main program here. So if you see right here, whenever this object is being created, so the name of the object is football here, right? So the name of the object is football here, and this football belongs to this class, which is the class named distance here, right? And before this class we have put the constant keyword. That simply means whatever value we have assigned to our object here will remain same, will not get changed, right? And to initialize our data members with this value, we need to have a 2 argument constructors, right? So we have feet, which is 300, and then we have inches, which is 0 inches here. So these two values will remain same, they will not get changed. So this is the standard area of the American football grounds. So these values will not get modified, these values will not get changed for this specific object. Therefore we have mentioned the constant keyword here. Now in the class, if you see, there is one function which is called getDistance. Now whenever you call this function, that simply means we can take the value for these variables from the user. Again, to call this function we need to create the object. So if you use this object right here, which is already being assigned the value and it is also a constant here, and if you call this function by the help of this object, then you will get the error here. You get error only because this object is constant. You cannot modify or change the value here. But if you call this function by the help of this object here, then this function only displays the value, then the value will be displayed, there will be no any error here. And this function is constant. That means this function will not modify or update the value of the data members here, right? But when you call this function, that simply means you are taking the value from the user, but you cannot take the value from the user because your object is constant and you have already assigned the value to it, right? So I hope the concept of the constant objects and constant member functions and constant arguments is very clear. Now let me show you this program on the code blocks and then we'll finish this chapter, right? So we are done with this chapter now. Now let me run this program here, which I have just explained to you, and you probably will get error at this point because what we are trying to do is we are trying to get the values for an object which is being kept constant here, right? So if you go in the textbook right here, if you see this double slash lines are being mentioned here because this is now commented. That means these lines are not being used anymore here. So I'll put this double slash lines here and then I'll run this code. It will work very smoothly, right? Now if you see on the output side, this code works very fine till you comment this statement here, right? So you get the output 300 feet and 0 inches right here because we have assigned the value of 300 feet and 0 inches. However, this line will not work because your object is being made constant here. So you will not get value for this object here. So you need to create one more object and then call that function for that specific object. Then of course you can take the value, right? So I hope this program is very clear to you now. Keep one thing in mind, that the C++ is specifically designed for large programs. It is not designed for 100-line program or maybe 50-line program. This C++ is specifically designed for large size programs. Therefore, you might not you might think that these concepts of classes and objects are not apparently being used as frequently, right? So having said this thing, we are done with this chapter. I suggest that you should read what does it all mean. It will basically conclude this chapter, and I strongly suggest that you should solve the exercise question of this chapter. And if you have any question, you can ask me on the WhatsApp group or on BLE, or you can send me an email. I'll respond to you as early as possible. Thank you so much and have a good day. Take care. Allah Hafiz.